Hello, welcome to Off My Shelves, and this is a one-off video celebrating the glorious Absolute edition by DC. We will get into it. Believe it or not, I'm making this video for my own sanity more than anything else, because I have tried my best to find out the reality of this situation, and I'm hoping that people will agree with me in the comments and will generally think that I'm right, but I can't figure out if I am or not. And what I'm trying to get at is I believe it is actually the 20th anniversary since the first Absolute edition came out. Now, the first Absolute I haven't got, but I've got a second reprinted version of it, and that was Absolute Authority by Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch. Now, this basically started off the Absolute format. And I believe it was through Wildstorm that it first came out and then was adopted across DC. But again, if I'm wrong, please correct me, because if there is an earlier Absolute edition, definitely tell me, because I am intrigued. I tried my hardest to find out. But either way, it's a good excuse, I thought, 20 years, if I'm right, to have a look at why I love the Absolute format. Why I've invested time and effort into collecting so many Absolutes. These are the Absolutes that I have collected, and the reason why I've spent so much time and effort getting a lot of the books that I love in Absolute format is because the Absolute format is the best format out there, in my opinion. Why is it so good then? All of them come with a very thick, hard slipcase, which is glorious, and it protects the book. But in all honesty, the slipcase means next to nothing for me when I'm thinking about this purpose. I literally could not care less if these books came with a slipcase or not. It's great, don't get me wrong, but these are quite expensive books, and I certainly don't pay for them for the slipcase. I pay for them for the book within. And what I mean by that is the size of the Absolute is the first thing that is absolutely glorious about it. When you compare its size to other formats, from a trade paperback to a tankerbarn to a Marvel Omnibus or Omnibus in general to an oversized hardcover, it dwarfs them all. Size-wise, outside of the gallery editions and those big artist editions that IDW and other publishers come out, this is pretty much the best you're going to get, really. I know Parker Martini editions are a little bit bigger as well, but that's probably because there's so much testosterone in Parker, and he is a macho man, and he needs a macho size, definitely. And yeah, you might think, oh, size doesn't matter. But when it comes to glorious artwork, if you've got a page that's nearly the same size as it was originally drawn at, then that's more what the original artwork was intended to be. Because as most of you are probably aware, really, comic book artists don't draw on tiny little pages or anything like that. They've got big pages that they draw on that are scaled down in different formats for different formats. Getting a format that's close to the artist's original intention, I suppose, and the original size is perfect for a start for me. And not only that, the page itself turns from just being a page in a book to being almost like an art print because of the size of it. Because it's gigantic in size, it really is, and it forces you to look at the image more. It's like Absolute Watchmen. When I did an overview of Absolute Watchmen, people often look at Watchmen and think, oh, we don't need that in oversized format because of the style, the 9-panel grids and all this other thing. And it's wrong, because this type of size allows you to see the density and the creativity that Dave Gibbons created in his artwork. Even V for Vendetta does the same thing. It opens up the world that David Lloyd was painting. And then when you look at books like Batman and Robin and look at the artwork by Frank Whiteley and just see that his artwork just sings more when it's oversized. When it's smaller, it can look condensed and a bit messy, but when you big it up, and the same for Absolute All-Star Superman, is you just get a different feel for the art, I think. Certainly, this format is not necessary for the written word at all. This format is there for art lovers, and exclusively there for art lovers, I would say. It's got next to nothing to do with the storytelling. It doesn't improve the quality of the speech bubbles or the way the story pans out, but what it does do is it improves the quality of the art. By being able to dive into it more, it does make the reading experience different, I think. And then when you look at the paper quality is right up there. Thick, heavy paper quality, sometimes a matte old stock finish, sometimes you know, a glossy high gloss paper, but always super good. And the binding, obviously there's some binding with some print runs and some issues, but in general glorious binding, I think. The size and scale of them, normally outside of these three here, Absolute Kirby's Fourth World and Absolute Planetary, normally they stay as a standard kind of size. So you normally get, you know, about 300 or 400 pages, which makes it oversized and easy to handle. I would say it's far easy to handle, even though it's far bigger. It's easier to handle than a Marvel Omnibus and other omnibuses because it hasn't got 1,000 odd pages or all that type of thing. Then the other unique thing I love is how the designers always give an individual quality to every book they produce. It's nothing like the trade paperback or nothing like the deluxe hardback or the omnibus. It's got a bit more to it, it's got a bit more design and thought to it. The Absolute Swamp Things, for example, having this brilliantly cloth bound cover that gives that mossy, grassy feeling of the book, and then the printed images on it, stunning. The Planetary or Absolute being made to resemble the Planetary book. Even though style-wise it's the same as the omnibus, they give a different feel to it because they've given texture to it and depth, and they've embossed certain bits. So it's kind of like the omnibus sized up a little bit. So the design wise is the same, but then they've added bells and whistles to it almost. All of them are unique and individual in their own way, and some of my favourites as well are Absolute Killing Joke and Absolute Batman Year One, because they include the story in two different stylistic formats, and even the paper quality changes drastically. So for example, they include two versions of Absolute Killing Joke, one on glossy paper with new colouring, the old on that old matte pulpy paper with the old colouring. And again, oversized both, and basically the only way you can get the original comic books format in oversized format is in these Absolute versions. But I can't really big up the Absolutes enough, to be honest. I will be looking at lots, and I've looked at lots already, and I'm certainly going to take the 20th anniversary to look at more, but I absolutely love the Absolute editions, obviously because I've taken the time to get them off the shelf and show them to you, really, because they weigh a lot, and I'm surprised they fit so nicely on my table as well. But either way, 20 years of Absolute editions. If I'm wrong, then certainly correct me, but if you can, in the comments below, let me know what your favourite Absolute edition was and what your first Absolute edition was. My first ever Absolute was this one, which I recently rebought. Was Absolute Batman and Robin by Frank Whiteley and Grant Morrison. Now, that was my first jump into Absolute editions, and I only sold it because I didn't have space at the time. And like I've said in other videos, I was selling a book and then buying a new book and all that type of thing. But I've rebought it recently because when I had the omnibus, I just didn't like the format enough, and I didn't like the way it was mapped. And now that I've got this, I enjoy the story far more. The same goes for a lot of these books. I've read, you know, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen countless times in trade paperback form, but I've never enjoyed it so much as seeing the oversized artwork on show in here. I'll never probably read the extras. And then the extras as well. And that's another thing actually, the extras are sometimes unique, sometimes not unique to Absolute editions, but they certainly are appreciated, and yeah, they're just glorious editions really, I think. And with or without the slipcase, I would gladly buy all of these books because it is all about the book. The quality of the binding, the quality of the paper, the size of that page. I absolutely love Absolutes. So happy birthday, Absolute editions, if in fact it is your birthday. Hopefully a researcher better than me can find out for definite. But thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.